Have you ever felt like life is confusing, like nothing is working the way it should, like the pieces of your life are scattered everywhere, and no matter how hard you try, they just don't fit together? Maybe you've questioned your path, doubted your purpose, or wondered why certain struggles keep appearing in your life. In moments like these, it can feel as if the universe is silent and you are walking through a fog with no clear direction. Ladies and gentlemen, there are moments in life when everything feels uncertain, moments when the road ahead looks unclear, when the answers we seek seem far away, and when the weight of confusion sits heavily on our hearts. Many of us have stood at that crossroads, wondering if we are moving in the right direction, questioning whether our efforts matter, and asking ourselves why things seem so complicated. But what we often forget is that clarity rarely comes at the beginning of the journey. It comes after the struggle. Think about the times in your life when something didn't make sense at first. A rejection that hurt deeply, a failure that made you question your abilities. A moment when everything you planned suddenly fell apart. At that time, it probably felt like the world was working against you. But months or years later, when you looked back, something remarkable happened. You understood. You realized that the rejection pushed you toward a better opportunity. The failure taught you a lesson you couldn't have learned otherwise. And the moment everything fell apart was actually the moment everything began to fall into place. This is one of the most powerful truths about life. Understanding often arrives later than the experience itself, and sometimes it arrives suddenly, like a light switching on in a dark room. Tonight, many of you may still be standing in that darkness. You might still be searching for answers, trying to understand your path, trying to make sense of your struggles. But I want you to hear this clearly. You are closer to clarity than you think, because every challenge you face carries a hidden lesson. Every obstacle contains a direction. Every delay holds a purpose. Life is not random chaos. It is a series of experiences designed to shape you into the person you are meant to become. The problem is that when we are inside the storm, we cannot see the bigger picture. Imagine standing in the middle of a maze. From where you stand, all you can see are the walls around you. You cannot see the path forward or the way out. But someone watching from above can see the entire maze. They know exactly where each path leads. In many ways, life is like that maze. While we are walking through it, we feel lost. But from a higher perspective, every step we take is guiding us somewhere meaningful. And that is why patience is so important, because clarity does not always arrive instantly. Sometimes it waits for the perfect moment. Sometimes it waits until we are strong enough to understand it. Think about the people who changed the world. Leaders, innovators, visionaries. Before they were recognized, before their success became visible, many of them spent years in confusion and struggle. They questioned themselves. They faced rejection. They experienced failure. But those experiences were not obstacles to their destiny. They were preparation for it. What feels like chaos today may actually be the foundation of your future success. The nights you spend doubting yourself may be building the resilience you need tomorrow. The mistakes you make today may become the wisdom you share with others one day. And the struggles that seem unbearable now may eventually become the story that inspires someone else. That is why we must learn to trust the process of life. Trust that every experience has value. Trust that every step has meaning. And most importantly, trust that clarity will come. Because it always does. There is a moment in every journey when things begin to make sense. A moment when the puzzle pieces start fitting together. A moment when you realize that what once looked like random events were actually connected. And when that moment arrives, it changes everything. Suddenly, you see your life with new eyes. You understand why certain opportunities appeared and disappeared. You understand why certain relationships entered your life and then ended. You understand why certain challenges pushed you to your limits. Because all of those experiences were shaping you, they were preparing you, they were guiding you towards something greater. And sometimes that realization arrives quietly. It arrives in the middle of the night, when you are reflecting on your life, or early in the morning, when a new perspective suddenly appears. You wake up and something inside you feels different. The confusion that once filled your mind begins to fade. The questions that once troubled you begin to find answers, and the path that once looked unclear begins to reveal itself. It is in that moment that you realize something powerful. Everything you went through had a purpose. Nothing was wasted, not the pain, not the mistakes, not the delays. Every experience added something to your journey. Every challenge strengthened your character. Every obstacle sharpened your understanding. And when you finally see that truth, something extraordinary happens. You stop fighting your past. You stop questioning every difficulty. You stop gliding your path. Instead, you begin to trust yourself and the journey you are on. You realize that life was not working against you. It was working for you. And that realization is incredibly liberating. Because when you understand the purpose behind your experiences, fear begins to lose its power. You become more confident in your ability to face challenges. You become more patient with the process of growth. And you become more grateful for the lessons life gives you. So if you are feeling confused right now, if you are questioning your direction, if you are wondering whether your struggles will ever make sense, remember this: clarity often arrives just before we are ready to give up, right before the breakthrough, right before the understanding, right before the moment when everything finally connects. And that moment may be closer than you think, maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow morning, maybe in the very near future. But when it arrives, you will see your journey differently. You will realize that you were never lost. You were simply learning. You were growing. You were becoming the person you needed to be. And when that understanding settles in your heart, you will move forward with a new sense of purpose. Because once everything makes sense, you no longer walk with doubt. You walk with clarity. You walk with clarity. You walk with strength. You walk with the quiet confidence that every step you take is part of a larger story. Your story. And that story is still unfolding. So hold on to hope tonight. Trust the journey you are on. Because before tomorrow morning, everything may finally begin to make sense. That there is something even deeper that we must understand tonight. Sometimes life keeps things hidden from us, not because we are unworthy of the answers, but because we are not yet ready for the truth. Think about it. If you had known every challenge you were going to face years ago, would you have had the courage to begin the journey? If someone had told you about every obstacle, every sleepless night, every moment of doubt, you might have chosen a different path. But life is wise. It reveals things step by step. It teaches us gradually. It strengthens us slowly. It strengthens us slowly. And through that process, we grow into the kind of person who can handle the truth when it finally arrives. This is why so many people experience their biggest realizations after their hardest battles. Because struggle expands our understanding, pain sharpens our awareness, difficulty forces us to look deeper within ourselves. When everything is easy, we rarely question anything. But when life becomes challenging, we start searching for meaning. We start asking important questions. Why am I here? What is my purpose? What lesson is this moment trying to teach me? And those questions lead us toward wisdom. Every great transformation begins with a question, and every answer begins with patience. And every answer begins with patience. Many people want clarity immediately. They want life to explain itself right away. But life does not work that way. Life is like a teacher who gives the test first and the lesson afterward. You face the experience, you struggle through it, you feel confused. And only later do you understand why it happened. That understanding is one of the greatest gifts life can give. Because once you truly understand something, it becomes part of your wisdom forever. And wisdom changes the way you see the world. You begin to realize that every person you meet is carrying their own story. Every stranger you pass on the street is fighting battles you cannot see. Every success you admire is built upon invisible struggles. And when you realize this, something beautiful happens. You develop compassion, you develop patience, you develop temptation. You stop comparing your journey to others because you understand that every path is unique. Some people learn their lessons early, others learn them later. Some people walk a smooth road. Others must climb steep mountains, but no matter the path, everyone is moving toward understanding. Everyone is moving toward growth. Everyone is moving toward clarity. Everyone is moving toward clarity. And sometimes the moment of clarity arrives in the most unexpected way. It might happen during a quiet conversation. It might happen while you are sitting alone with your thoughts. It might happen when you read a single sentence that suddenly changes the way you see everything, or it might happen in the silence of the night, when your mind finally becomes still enough to hear the truth inside you. In that moment, everything shifts. The confusion that once filled your heart begins to dissolve. The frustration that once weighed you down begins to lift. And suddenly you see your life as a connected story rather than a collection of random events. You see how one experience led to another. You see how one decision opened the door to the next opportunity. You see how even the painful chapters were guiding you somewhere meaningful. And when that realization arrives, you gain something incredibly powerful. You gain perspective. Perspective is what allows us to turn pain into wisdom. It allows us to transform mistakes into lessons. It allows us to look at our past, not with regret, but with gratitude. Because without those experiences, we would not be who we are today. Every challenge you survived added strength to your character. Every obstacle you overcame increased your resilience. Every difficult moment forced you to discover abilities you never knew you had. Think about the version of yourself from 5 years ago. You were a different person then. You had different fears, different dreams, different levels of understanding. But the journey you traveled transformed you. It shaped your perspective. It expanded your awareness, and the person you are today is stronger because of it. Now imagine the person you will become 5 years from now. Imagine how much more you will become 5 years from now. Imagine how much more you will understand. How much wiser you will be. How many things that confuse you today will suddenly seem obvious in the future. Because growth never stops. Learning never ends. Understanding continues to evolve throughout our lives. And the most exciting part of this journey is that every new realization brings a new level of freedom. Freedom from fear, freedom from doubt, freedom from the illusion that life is meaningless. Because when you begin to see the deeper patterns in life, you realize that everything is connected. The challenges push you toward growth. The growth leads to new opportunities. The opportunities open doors to new experiences, and those experiences create the wisdom that shapes your future. It is a continuous cycle of learning and transformation, and you are right in the middle of it. Even if things feel confusing right now, even if you cannot see the full picture yet, even if you are still searching for answers, the process is still unfolding. Your story is still being written. Your understanding is still expanding. And sometimes the greatest breakthroughs happen right after the moments when we feel the most uncertain. History is full of examples of people who almost gave up just before everything changed. Inventors who failed hundreds of times before their discovery. Artists who were rejected countless times before their work was recognized. Leaders who faced overwhelming obstacles before achieving their vision. In each of those stories, there was a moment when things looked hopeless, a moment when the future seemed unclear, a moment when it would have been easier to walk away, but they continued. They trusted the process, and eventually everything began to make sense. The same principle applies to every one of us. Your struggles are not signs of failure. They are signs that you are growing. They are signs that you are learning. They are signs that you are moving towards something greater. So if tonight you feel uncertain about your direction, if tonight you are questioning your purpose, if tonight you are wondering whether your efforts will ever pay off, remember this: the moment of understanding often arrives when we least expect it. It arrives quietly, it arrives suddenly, and when it comes, it changes everything. Because once you understand your journey, you begin to walk it with confidence. You stop worrying about every obstacle because you know that obstacles are part of the path. You stop fearing every mistake because you know that mistakes are teachers. You stop doubting your future because you recognize that every step you take is shaping it. And that is when life becomes truly meaningful. Not when everything is perfect, not when every answer is known, but when you trust that the journey itself is guiding you toward understanding. So as this night continues and tomorrow morning approaches, remember this message. Somewhere in the quiet moments between now and the sunrise, something inside you may shift. A new thought may appear. A new perspective may emerge. A new sense of clarity may begin to form, and when that happens, you will realize something extraordinary. You will realize that everything you experienced, every struggle, every delay, every challenge, was part of a greater design. You were never wandering without direction. You were always moving toward understanding. You were always moving toward growth. You were always moving toward the moment when everything finally begins to make sense. So trust the journey. Trust the lessons. Trust the timing of your life. Because sometimes the answers we search for during the day arrive quietly in the night. And before tomorrow morning comes, you might just wake up with a new understanding of your story. An understanding that reminds you of one powerful truth. Your journey was never random. It was preparation. Preparation for the person you are becoming. Preparation for the purpose you are discovering. Preparation for the moment when you finally see the bigger picture. And when that moment arrives, you will stand with confidence, knowing that every step you took, even the difficult ones, brought you exactly where you were meant to be. And that is the moment when everything truly begins to make sense. Thank you.